Welcome to this week's episode of Virtually Amazing Assistants, the podcast for assistants everywhere. And I'm Shelley Fishel, your host, the Microsoft Office Maestro, teaching you and helping you to make the most of your Microsoft Office applications. Because we all need to know how to do the stuff that we've been asked to do. That's me. But today I'm thrilled to have with me two guests all the way from South Africa, Susan Engelbrecht and Cathy Williams Harris. And they are the co-founders of PANSA, the Platinum Assistance Africa. And I've got my crib sheet as per usual. If you've been listening for a while, you'll know I refer to it because I can't remember everything. So Cathy is an internal networks expert. She's also an executive PA and an author and an internal trainer. And she's got over 44 years of experience, which is mind-boggling. She serves as the executive PA to the CEO of Discovery Invest, and she was named South Africa's Secretary of the Year in 2006 and has authored notable works such as the Executive Secretary Guide to Creating an Internal Assistant Network and Moby Jane, I love that, Self-Development and Innovation. And she is co-founder and director of the Platinum Assistant Network in South Africa and a voting member of the World Administrative Alliance. So Cathy has also contributed greatly to the Global Skills Matrix and has developed training programs for office professionals worldwide, which is a very amazing set of things that you've done, Cathy. Now to Susan. So who is Susan? Susan is the co-founder and director of PANSA and a member of the World Administrators Alliance. And she's got over 43 years of experience as an executive assistant. She's built a record of accomplishments through strong performance in high volume, high pressure environments. Susan's passionate about advocating for the administrative profession, and I see that online all the time. And she's actively involved in mentoring through the ISFO Admin Bursary. She's contributed to developing templates for PAs, EAs to articulate their value and for country associations and networks to engage with HR departments to fund membership fees for administrative professionals. Because I can't say it today, put my teeth in. Administrative professionals are often seen as just the admin or just the secretary. And you amazing assistants are so much more than that. So have I missed anything, Susan and Cathy and Susan?
Okay. Absolutely perfect. Thank you, Shelley.
Fantastic. So let me start with Cathy. Can you share a little bit more about your journey? What inspired you to become an internal networks expert and an executive PA?
We go back many years, go back to 2001 when I started Discovery, and a little bit of background history. Years ago, and I'm giving my age away here, but years ago, I actually set up a network for one of the first or the second companies I worked for back in the 80s. And without even realizing, I was already setting the foundation for internal networks. But it also started more on a more powerful level with Discovery. When we joined here, there were lots of assistants. It's a big organization. Even at that time, it was considered still small. And we all wanted to get to know what's happening in this new organization. It was newly founded. We had joined, I think, about 6 years after it already started. And we came on board with a bunch of other like-minded ladies, and we created a committee. And then we worked through all the things we'd like to share so that everyone has got sort of a shared value of what it is we need and what resources we can draw off that would benefit everyone at the time. And so it just grew. And then at some point it's sort of in 2011, I actually created a handbook on internal networks, and later was lucky enough to publish it through Marchant Publishers and Lucy Brazier. And the rest is really history, but it was more of a coming together of our profession, the passion we have, the opportunity to develop and grow within your organization, with the skills you have within your network. You don't always have to go out for training. And back in those years, there was no like virtual training or anything like that. It was very hard to find good training. So we started training in-house. Obviously, it's grown, technology has expanded, and we at where we are at.
Great. So I'm going to ask Susan a question just to keep it a bit even, and then
Absolutely.
we'll come back to you again. So what I'm going to ask this first question. I'm going to come back. PANSA we'll talk about in a minute because I think that's a topic which is worthy of much discussion. But Susan, how do you manage to maintain high performance in high pressure environments? Because I'm sure all of you work in these high pressure environments with all the different things
Yeah.
that you do.
I think the best way to describe it is just to focus on what's at hand, especially if you work with various executives in various areas. You always need to know what is the most important, who is the most important, and then take it from there. So I must admit, I've never really experienced any pressure that I feel that I can't control what I'm doing. I think it's just my type of personality. I'm here to serve. And I'm very blessed for the last 25 years at Discovery to have excellent executives that I know what is expected from me and they know how I cope under various pressures that we have over the years. So my easiest way to say is just be yourself and take it from there.
Absolutely. That's great advice. I once heard from a really wonderful NLP coach. His strategy for coping with a very long to-do list and lots of things to do was to write it on a post-it note. You know, your top 3 things on a post-it note and work through them one at a time. In fact, write one thing on one post-it note and focus on that, which is effectively what you were saying. Know who's the most important person, get their stuff out of the way first and move on to the next most important
Exactly.
person, unless, of course, there's a deadline
Exactly.
attached to those things.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so back to Cathy. How do you see the role of personal assistants evolving over the next few years?
Well, my vision of what it's going to look like is you have to be ready for technology, for change. Our roles have advanced tremendously. We should no longer be doing transactional stuff. Transactional is being taken over by AI and the IT industry. Everything has become more computerized and digital. So we have to move away from that. So if you're doing a lot of, say, reimbursements, salary updates, those things that departmental PAs get themselves caught up in, petty cash, that kind of stuff where you have to data inputs. You have to move away from that routine stuff. You still have to know how to do it because someone has to put it still into a system. But that is not where the magic lies. You have to future proof yourself. And the only way you can do that is to start leveling up, becoming more strategic, more educated in the fields that you're in. What I find with businesses in the past, 10, 15 years ago, I would be doing Excel, PowerPoint, and all those things for my executive. But now they're specialists doing that. So that where does it leave the assistant? So you have to be one up. You have to be able to do more project management, get involved in that. If you don't have the training in that field, get it. You have to be educated, get a degree of some kind. No longer is a post high school diploma enough. You have to be educated. Executives want educated, high level C-suite assistants, people who can be more strategic in their approach and how they work with and for them. You have to be able to add value to your executive and the executive team. And I'm not talking tea, coffee, and biscuits here. I'm talking real work related stuff. Know your industry, understand what your company sells, recognize who your clients are. I would say that is vital in
Yeah.
a
So
nutshell.
I've never got that was brilliant. That was really, really brilliant. And it's music to my ears because I'm a trainer. So obviously I really believe in upskilling. And I think you're right. You really do still need to know how to do those basic things, whether it's to create a PowerPoint or put the data in Excel. Because without knowing how to do it, it's very hard to tell an AI agent. I'm talking about Copilot agents because I specialize in Microsoft. So it's very hard to ask them to do something if you don't know what it is you want them to do. So I'm a big believer in outsourcing as much as I can and delegating to whether that's a person or an AI person. But I need to know what's involved first. But I've actually got a question to you about what you just said, Cathy. In, how do you manage an executive? So you said that you need to know your executive and how to work for them and what they expect and all of those wonderful things. So do C suite executives now understand, or are they starting to understand, the value of working with an executive assistant in this new way?
I think the old executives absolutely not. And they're an old horse which can be very difficult to change their view. But I think the newer and those managers who are visionaries, they can take this on. For example, in my case, I don't go and ask my executive, what can I do for you? I go and find out what are his key performance indicators. I sit and chat to him like, what is the output you need to deliver? What is your goals? What are your objectives so that I can understand what are the projects? And I'm lucky. And this is where I always encourage assistants to go into those meetings. You don't just have to go in the meetings to take minutes, but go in to listen and take takeaways back with you, because then you know that you can take the initiative on certain projects and follow up on things and research information for your executive and so on. And also getting yourself sort of entwined in the business that you're in. So I'm in investment. So it's very difficult to be in that space if you don't know what's happening. And it takes some while, but once you apply yourself and you read more of what's happening in the markets and, things like that, and the platforms and wrappers and funds and investments and the global investment landscape, you sort of get a better understanding of what your executive and your team are doing. And that is where I'm not there yet. Let me just put it there. I'm not there yet, but it's a learning thing. You learn as you go. But this is encouragement for the younger assistant. This is where you need to land. You cannot land doing all the transactional stuff. You have to land with the juicy value added stuff, stuff that is going to add value to your executive's day, because he can do his own flight bookings. They can, do anything that we can do, they can also do now because of AI and digital. So, yeah.
And also it's on your phone. We just booked flights for our
Exactly.
son. It's my husband has a big birthday coming up. We're going to be in Florida we have two kids who live in Florida, so we're going to go there. We're actually going to be there while he has his next big birthday. So we're flying our son who lives here out to meet up with us just for his birthday, so we can be all together. And he just booked it all on his phone. That he didn't need to go
Mm.
on the web. He didn't need to do any of those things that even 2 years ago you would have done. I'm still more comfortable using a website for those sort of things, but he's quite happy to do everything on his phone. And I think
Yeah.
that's an important point,
Mm.
because you can be sitting on the train or the bus or in the back of your chauffeur driven car and booking your flight. You do it over supper. You don't need to ask somebody to do it for you anymore,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So, Susan, what advice would you give to aspiring executive assistants looking to make a significant impact in their roles, which is about what we just discussed?
Basically, yeah. What I would suggest is definitely what I would tell my younger self, to have more
Yes.
confidence, to always be authentic, true to yourself. And obviously, you need to be able to be confidential in whatever you do on behalf of your executives. As Cathy also said, is you need to know your manager well. You need to be part of his life as such in the office. My one executive used to call me, I'm his work wife, because he felt that I know more about his life and his finances than his actual wife, which was a great compliment at that stage. But yes, I think you have to be true to yourself and know what you're talking about. Don't fluff around if you're not sure. Be open and honest. And if you made a mistake, acknowledge that. Don't just blame somebody else. The blame game is not working in today's life. An executive assistant is definitely a partner, a strategic partner to her executive. She needs to take care of whatever she can and preempt what it is that he actually requires. One of my guys always tells me that before he can ask me to do something, I've already done it. I said, yes, I might not take minutes in your meetings, but I listen to the recordings. I know exactly what it is that needs to happen. And if you need information, I quickly do the research and I send it to the various teams so that they are able to quickly do what they have to do. So all in all, just be yourself and
Fantastic.
take on what you can. Never say no.
Never say no. That's right. I think that's
Yeah.
good. But I think sometimes you do need to say no, though, don't you? I mean, there are some instances. But I've actually got a different question that pops up just from the way that what you were saying just now. So you were talking referencing executive assistants as she needs to take on. How many men are in that position these days? Because whenever I've watched, you watch an old Poirot episode or an Agatha Christie thing or older things, the executive assistants were always male, and it was a very high position. So how has that changed over the years? And are there many men in the profession now?
Shelley, to be honest, I don't think so. There are many PAs, especially in South Africa, that's ladies. I'm aware of two executive assistants in South Africa that's actually male. And then one in the UK that we're aware of. But we don't really see, and we had one a couple of years ago at Discovery as well. But once again, he up and go. He was here for a couple of months and just decided, well, this is not for him. And he took on another role, another responsibility. So I don't think so. There might be more, but as you say, in the past, in the history, it always used to be men. And one of the gentlemen that I'm referring to in South Africa, Corey Fourie, he started off his career in the South African Defence Force as an executive assistant to one of the generals there. And he just kept going. But as far as I know, not many around at this stage.
Yeah. I think that's just a really interesting point in this kind of time that we live in of equality and diversity and inclusion and everything. That I'm surprised that there aren't more men doing these kind of roles, because they are becoming much more strategic, which would appeal, I would have thought, to a male brain as much as a female brain. So let's talk about PANSA. Let's talk about PANSA. This is to both of you. So tell our listeners what PANSA is, because some people who are outside of South Africa won't know what we're referring to.
PANSA actually stands for the Platinum Assistant Network South Africa. Stands for the Platinum Assistant Network South Africa. And basically what we are not an association. So we don't like the red tape and bureaucracy associated with associations and things and committees, and it's just too much drama. We want to be able to give our communities what they need and what they want, and what we know is the trends to develop them for the future. So basically, and to reward them as well. So we've got an awards program for them as well. And we started off, I think, with about 16 members. How many members are we now, Susan?
Close to 300 paid members.
Paid members.
Yeah.
And our mailing list is just over 2,000, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a good reach. And to say we're not the only network in South Africa. There are two others as well. And we encourage participation in all other associations or networks or whatever it is. We don't like to limit people. Okay, so you belong to our network, you can't belong to so-and-so, and we're going to look down at you if you go there. Absolutely not. We're not. I always say we're not a political party. We're a network to empower and enable our community to develop and grow into the future. Correct, Susani?
Absolutely. To enhance them, to up their skills. It's very important. And I've just recently, I think on Monday, I sent out a survey to our members. to ask for their input on what it is that they would like to see us present during the year, either in a virtual session, a lunch and learn session, or our workshops or summit. And it's quite surprising the variety of themes that's coming through. But the most important, and believe it or not, is people are still worrying about taking minutes. That's one of the points that they said they really need assistance with. And also how to use AI in the workplace. It seems that a lot of companies are adopting uh, Copilot or ChatGPT, but they don't really offer the assistance on how to work with these things. So I'm actually looking forward to the final results and just to see what we're going to do. And then Cathy and I are strategizing next week to see who, where, what can we slot in where, and what's the most important to reach our members further.
That's fantastic. That's phenomenal to hear that companies are taking up the proper licensing options, because for Copilot, for instance, what's great, well, apart from the fact that it blows my mind nearly every day, but
Yeah.
what's great about it within your organization is that it's grounded, that's the terminology, inside your organization. So you're not taking proprietary information and putting it out on the web, which if you are an assistant and you want to ask a question and you don't have Copilot in your license, and you go off to ChatGPT and you upload your data there, they're going to use that for the large language model learning for another time. So that data might come back to somebody else, not as your data, but it might not be something you want out in the public domain, which is why if you are using those kind of things, you should be, even if you're using ChatGPT, it should be the license that's grounded in your organization, not the general on the web. Let's do anything.
And we are
And
fortunate and blessed enough to have that at our company. So we use it, and it's just amazing what it can do. It can prepare a report for you if you give the right input. It can create a presentation for you, once again, with the correct information provided. It's just amazing.
And it's for that very reason that assistants need to realize and be very careful that AI is not the answer to your everyday. It's a tool and it has to be used responsibly, and you need to review it, and you need to make sure that the output doesn't sound AI, that it sounds original. Yeah.
yeah, that's very key. I mean, I have this podcast, for example. So how have I used AI for this podcast? So I ask all my guests to upload a bio and a headshot, and then I prepare a document which summarizes the bio and has questions. And where I've had two guests, there's been a couple of episodes, I've actually got Copilot to summarize both documents and then come up with a summary document and the questions. So the questions that I've asked today have all come from Copilot, which meant that I didn't have to sit there racking my brains, having read
Exactly.
everything and come up with what questions shall I ask, especially when I don't always know everybody that I interview very, very well. I mean, I know people, but I'm not with them all the time. So I've
Yes.
used it for that. When I'm done within the software that I use to record it, it's called Descript. And we're recording in Descript. This will go into my Descript drive where I'll be able to edit it. So I'll be able to take out all the ums and ahs from editing the text. No, it's got a tool to take out all the ums and ahs. I can edit the text. So where we've had the sound go a bit wonky and I think I'm going to take that sentence out, I can just cut the text and it cuts the video and you would never know it was ever there. It's just amazing. But the thing I wanted to say about it was I can get it to generate the show notes, the YouTube description, and a blog post. So it generates a blog post for every episode, which helps people find it. It just helps in the general thing. But on the blog page, I do say blogs are generated by AI because I haven't got time to rewrite them. But if it was for my own purposes and I asked it for something, I would rewrite it. But just for that whole thing is saving me either hours of my time or pounds, because I would outsource that to somebody, which I did with my previous podcast. So yeah, AI is key, and it's all about how you ask the question, and that's
Absolutely.
quite. Sometimes it takes several goes until you get the right question. So that's been fascinating. So why should your South African assistants who are listening join PANSA? Why should they join?
Well, anyone can join, and not just South African assistants, but global. We do have some global members as well. The fact that we have every 6 weeks, we have a lunch and learn session. We have wonderful connect sessions where we meet each other face to face. We've got access to amazing people like yourself and Joan Burge and Lucy Brazier and executive support and executive live and all those kind of things. And we include all the learning. Well, Susan does all that work. She includes all the links to learning on our WhatsApp page. She's responsible for our social media, and she ensures that our members stay connected and in tune to everything that's happening around them in the administrative professional world. And the value for money is really worth it. We do not charge a lot for the paid members. Even our free members get a lot of freebies. We have a wonderful WhatsApp page where we advertise jobs as well, roles or positions. So our members get first dipped into opportunities, both locally and globally. Yeah, no, it's absolutely. And we're a family. We're a family of like-minded professionals. We're all striving. We have the same challenges every day, and we want to connect and share with each other.
And
That's
just to add
great.
to what
So
you said, I always say my tagline is sharing is caring. So whatever I feel is pretty good information for me that I can learn from, I always share it with the group as well. Why should I keep information to myself? Share it.
yeah, I share tons of stuff. If anybody who follows me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or wherever it might be, you'll know that I share tons
Right.
and
Yeah.
tons of stuff, and this YouTube channel. There's just so much stuff. Okay, I think that's been a really informative episode of Virtually Amazing Assistant. I want to thank Susan and Cathy for joining me today, all the way from South Africa, which, I just love the idea that we can get together all over the world. Isn't it amazing? And so I will be back next week on Virtually Amazing Assistants with another amazing guest. And for now, that's me, Shelley Fishel, the MS Office Maestro, signing off.